all over the state to try to, not sell it, but ensure that people realize that, this is an option, give a little history behind it, because we do see docs where they're like, oh yeah, I used to send a so-and-so, he put a stimulator in everybody, and none of them work, and they get infected, and they get hot pockets, and they get paralyzed. And there's all this negative connotation, whereas, if I can give an explanation, like, yeah, that guy was kind of a shitbag, for lack of better words, and did this to everybody, but he's no longer practicing because, he didn't practice in a way that's ethical, in a way that's moral, and so now he's not practicing, but all these patients are stuck with these devices. But I think what also happened is, a driver inside the technology space, Nevro comes out, and all of a sudden Nevro shakes up the big three, and the big three start putting some research dollars into, let's try to find some new things. Granted, their research dollars are likely because they're trying to maintain market share, but in doing that, it's going to help the therapy overall. So we start getting developments of new waveforms, new technologies, new modalities to do spinal cord stimulation, like dorsal root ganglion stimulation. There's been a lot of improvement in the last 5 years with the advent of Nevro, and I think with some of the changed reimbursement structure. So, sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but going back to your question of how do we get the knowledge base out to the primary cares and out to the patients as a whole, I think a lot of it comes down to educating the primary cares. I would never want to see kind of direct consumer marketing for stimulation. I think that's, part of how the drug company ended us up with what Purdue had done, and what, it started with Valium in the 80s, where they're doing this direct to consumer, ask your doctor about this. I don't think that's the best way. I think that, homegrown kind of good, appropriate education is useful. And I think the stimulator companies help do that, because I think if you find the reps that are, I don't want to say hungry, but hungry is a word, and they meet with the docs, like, hey, let's help you market your practice and set up educational lunches and dinners and breakfasts with the referring providers to, dispel some of the myths associated with stimulation. That's been a very good way to grow a stimulator practice. And then I think also when you're doing them, and you're doing them for the right reason, you start seeing patients referring other patients. You start seeing the primary care docs seeing their patients do well, and they're like, wow, and I mean, I have some docs that are sending me patients being like, hey, what about a stimulator? And I'm like, well, they've got an artificial valve or Coumadin, they're a bad candidate. But I like that they're thinking that. They're thinking that because they see good outcomes. So it's almost, in my opinion, a natural course of reimbursement fell. So now the docs that are doing these are the docs that are fellowship trained. They're doing them for the right reason. They're not the, family practice doc that's got a C-arm in his basement that went to a weekend course and it's like, yeah, I'm going to start sticking stimulators in everybody. Oh, that one's paralyzed. That one's, whatever. I think that we've done away with those, and you're seeing more true to form scientists looking at what can we do to help these patients. Let's get them a trial stimulation, and then the outcomes improve. And with the improved outcomes, the primary care see it. And I think that has a lot to do with it in terms of kind of a homegrown building of referral base.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about some of those technological innovations, but for in the spinal cord market. First, a broader question, which is sort of about your discretion in using these devices. So at this point now, there's really the big five of spinal cord stimulator manufacturers. At your practice, do you have sort of clean discretion to use whichever device you think is most appropriate for your patients, or do you have a predetermined vendor?
That's an interesting question, because the state I'm in right now, there's a large healthcare group called Intermountain Healthcare. I sit on their board for pain. I started their board to come up